We've talked about overrated albums and overhated albums, but sometimes a metal release is so divisive that it erupts the fanbase into civil war. You know These are just 10 of such albums from 2015 and on, and we're starting with a very recent addition in Slipknot, The End So Far. After years of giving pretty lukewarm to negative reviews of their albums as part of the All I Need Is the Debut and Iowa crowd, I was actually kind of stoked to finally tell the modern fanbase that I really enjoyed this album and not incite their wrath for once.
You serious?
Oh, how wrong I was. In a plot twist worthy of M. Night Shyamalan, my praise was met with even more scorn and vitriol by a pretty vocal faction of the modern fanbase who called this the worst album the band has ever put out. I'm still trying to figure out what the X factor is that lends people to either consider it among their best since the early days or a complete pile of shit.
Garbage Day!
Huh?
No!
But next up we have Mastodon with Hushed and Grim. This was one of the albums that initially spurred my interest in making this video back in 2021. Of all the albums on this list, this is the one where the reactions I saw were the most perplexing to the point that it seemed as if we listened to different albums entirely.
What is wrong with you?
I see some calling this their most exciting and energetic release in years, and others like me who find it to be dull, lifeless, and overlong to the point that it's a chore to get through it. I think I'd honestly rather listen to The Hunter, personally.
How dare you?
As such, I've dubbed Hush and Grim the cilantro of metal music. As in case you didn't know, people's genetics and taste buds can be wired in such a way that it is either a fantastic spice to add to your food or literally tastes like soap. Then we have Deftones with Gore. Of course, this album had to make the list. Regular viewers already know my thoughts as I take jabs at it almost every chance I get as the black sheep in their discography. Honestly, I don't think it's terrible, but that doesn't change the fact that in the Deftones camp, people seem to either think it's among their best or worst. I see plenty praising it as an interesting departure with some of their favorite tracks, and others like myself who find it to be kind of a muddled, forgettable mess.
Not quite my tempo.
For the record, it was not the album that Stephen Carpenter wanted to make, but that doesn't have to mean that fans can't enjoy the results of their efforts. Next up is Gojira with Fortitude. Another very recent addition to this list. I could almost consider including Magma as well, but for whatever reason, this is the release that really created a rift within the fandom. Despite being included in a meme about Fortitude acting like I hate everything, I actually loved this album and joined the Fortitude is an improvement on the more streamlined formula of Magma camp. Whereas others stated their intentions to defend Magma to the death while decrying this new album as sellout trash. Personally, I don't see what's not to love. Born for One Thing is a banger that would have been right at home on Magma. Amazonia is super infectious. You've got proggier guitars on tracks like Another World and Sphinx, but also rager moments in Grind and Into the Storm.
Well, I guess this is a case where we'll have to agree to disagree.
I don't agree to that.
Neither do I.
Then you know Dream Theater also had to make the list with the Astonishing. Going back a few more years, this double album is easily among the most ambitious outings from the legendary progressive metal band, and it may also be the one with the most varied opinions. Many consider it to be a bloated, long-winded, 130-plus minute snorefest, but I also see others defending it as a masterpiece of sci-fi conceptual metal opera.
Of course, be prepared because it's not a traditional album. You can't just sit down and listen to it. I mean, you can, but you probably won't enjoy it. You need the context of this being a story. You need the lyrics. I would highly recommend going online and getting the guide and listening to it while reading it your first time through.
Personally, I don't feel strongly either way. There are some songs I really enjoy, but plenty more I could do without. It actually received overall favorable reviews at the time, but these days I don't see much love for it when it comes up in discussion. Next up, Rivers of Nihil with The Work.
I can't get over
back to more recent releases, this was another big one that I really found myself feeling at the center of in the comments section of my review. To me, this was one of the best albums of 2021, and I, like many, praised it for all of the chances they took on different styles over the course of the album, especially the industrialized crunch of Focus. Others seemed angry with the changes and wanted more of a continuation of the sludgy, progressive death metal of Where Owls Know My Name, which had been met with much more universal praise.
It was not what I wanted!
Personally, I find it more exciting to see bands evolve from even their best work, and respect to artists for taking chances even when they don't always pan out. Let me know your own thoughts down in the comments now that it's had a little bit more time to sink in. Another recent one with Ghost and Impera. This one was extra funny to me, as up until now, it's very much been a war between Ghost fans and the Ghost isn't metal and it's lame crowd. But for some reason, this was the album where even the fans turned on each other.
Betrayal.
And I don't really understand why, as I feel like pretty much all of the same elements of the previous efforts are on display, and honestly, in my opinion, some of their best songwriting to date on tracks like Hunter's Moon, Call Me a Little Sunshine, and even the admittedly corny Darkness at the Heart of Your Love. But even so, I've seen a lot of previous diehard Ghost fans say that they were massively disappointed and just don't care for it.
No, sir, I don't like it.
Again, though, I'm interested to see now down in the comments if feelings have changed after a few months have gone by. Next up is Whitechapel with Kin. Another interesting one, as I might have expected the turn they took from The Valley to be the divisive choice, but ultimately it was the follow-up that garnered a much more split reaction.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
Some further praised the band's continued evolution in new directions, while others mocked it as sort of a deathcore goes butt rock album.
You stupid.
Again, I respect the continued exploration, even if it doesn't always pan out, and I think it's at least leaps and bounds better than the stale rinse and repeat blandness of Mark of the Blade.
It stinks. It stinks. It stinks.
Then we have Fear Factory with Aggression Continuum.
Imagine your life taken from you!
Another case where after years and years of not caring about this band's modern output, I found myself really enjoying this record alongside the likes of the classics. And as much as I don't care for how Dino handles himself online, I have to give it to the guy for really bringing the riffs and taking the lead on putting it all together. But of course, not everyone else seemed to feel the same. Even most of my reviewer buddies seem to think that this was a pretty milquetoast outing from a band on its last leg, and once more the fans couldn't really come to a consensus as to whether it was a tour de force or complete dud. And then I felt it was appropriate to end on Tool with Fear Inoculum. Leave it to Tool fans to always have something to argue and complain about. But to be fair, it's somewhat understandable that expectations would be pretty high after a 13-year gap following 10,000 Days.
I need it!
I don't necessarily see people loving this album, but there are definitely plenty of defenders alongside the people who felt like this was not worth the decade-plus wait.
This is Tool's worst album. As far as the ambient interludes that I haven't really gone into detail with, they're all bad. They're all terrible. They're not good at all. I'm feeling a decent 2 strong 4 on this one.
I more or less agree with the latter, but then again, I didn't really love 10,000 Days either.
Inconceivable.
In any case, Fear Inoculum feels like a fine celebration of where they've come from, but it's never going to receive the same praise as Anima or Lateralis. Y'all check out this playlist for plenty more overrated metal albums, videos, and other things, but that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.